Today is April 7th, 2025, and we are week 3 of this federal election, and we're going to talk about it on this episode of Follow the Lead podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Valerie McLaughlin. This Canadian federal election has been dominated by United States President Donald Trump and his tariffs. Last week, Canada was hit with 25% tariffs on auto. Stellantis has announced it's shutting down 2 assembly plants, one in Windsor, Ontario, and a second in Mexico. These plant closures had an immediate effect on the factories that supply these 2 assembly plants. 900 workers at 5 factories in Michigan and Indiana were laid off. Because of Donald Trump, the Canadian election has turned into a 2-way race between the Liberals and the Conservatives. According to polls, the other opposition parties, the NDP, the Bloc Québécois, and the Green Party, are all lagging, unable to attract or sustain voters. Today marks the deadline for parties to have all their candidates in place. Parties have 2 options if candidates run afoul: drop them or continue to stand by them, hoping you can mitigate any damage. Parties will not have the option to replace candidates. Both the Liberals and the Conservatives had to drop candidates last week. Liberal MP Paul Chang ended his bid for re-election after comments surfaced of him saying people should claim the bounty placed on a rival Conservative candidate by turning him in to the Chinese consulate in Toronto. If you're unfamiliar about Paul Chang, check out my podcast episode from last week. The Conservatives dropped at least 3 candidates last week, including Simon Payette, who was running in Quebec. Mr. Payette allegedly accused Natalie Provost of playing the victim to get elected for the Liberals. Ms. Provost, who's running as a Liberal candidate in Quebec, is a survivor of the 1989 École Polytechnique massacre. According to reporting by CTV, Mr. Payette posted several comments to Ms. Provost's Facebook page, including one where he said that he'd use the federal gun control law as toilet paper in Parliament. Have you ever heard of the adage, with friends like these, who needs enemies? For those who are unfamiliar with the saying, it basically means that your friends, or political allies in the case of Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre, act like your enemies. To remind everyone, the Conservative Party of Canada had this huge lead on the Liberals when Parliament ended for the winter holidays. The lead was more than 20 points, putting the Conservatives in a supermajority territory. But 2 things happened to evaporate that lead: Donald Trump becoming president and Justin Trudeau resigning as Liberal leader. The CBC poll tracker reported yesterday the Liberals' lead was 6.5 points over the Conservatives. The Liberals are on track to win a majority. While the lead may not be huge, the Liberals are projected to win key seats in Ontario and Quebec, according to 338 Canada. The political knives came out for Mr. Poilievre in the first week of the election campaign, when Corey Teneycke called the Conservative leader too Trumpy with his lack of positivity as well as his slogans. But to be fair to Mr. Poilievre, he's always loved slogans long before Mr. Trump entered politics. When Mr. Poilievre was first elected as MP for Nepean Carleton, his constituency office was on Greenbank Road in Ottawa, and he had slogans on his office sign. I remember it was either results for you or getting results for you. I can remember him using both of these slogans, but I know he changed the slogan slightly after the Conservatives formed government in 2006. Again, all I'm trying to say is that he's always loved his slogans. And who is Corey Teneycke? He is former Prime Minister Stephen Harper's Director of Communication and most recently, the campaign manager for Ontario Premier Doug Ford. After Mr. Tonight's comments, Mr. Poilievre was dogged with questions from the media if he was going to pivot his campaign to address Mr. Trump's tariff threats. Mr. Poilievre has stuck with his messaging that the last 10 years under 3 Liberal governments has been a lost decade for Canadians because life has become unaffordable. Things didn't get any better for Mr. Poilievre after former Reform leader Preston Manning wrote in the Globe and Mail last week that Western Canada won't stand for a 4th Liberal government, and this means that a Western separatist movement is growing. Mr. Manning argued that Eastern Canadians need to realize, quote, a vote for the Carney Liberals is a vote for Western succession, unquote. The Reform Party, which has its roots in Western Canada, emerged as a political party in the late 1980s. When the Progressive Conservative Party collapsed during the 1993 election, only winning 2 seats, it was the Reform Party that became the voice for Western conservatives. The Reform Party, which was rebranded as the Canadian Alliance Party, eventually merged with the Progressive Conservative Party to form today's Conservative Party. I know that sounds confusing because it is, but basically in a nutshell, all the conservative-minded parties merged into one party in the early 2000s, so they'd stop splitting the vote amongst themselves. Along with Mr. Manning's comments, the Conservative federal leader now has Alberta Premier Danielle Smith wanting to sit down with Quebec Premier François Legault. The reason the Alberta Premier wants to sit down with her Quebec counterpart is to discuss how they can both assert their respective provincial sovereignty. To the casual political cynic, one could surmise that Ms. Smith is fanning the flames of Western alienation. She's already provided a list of demands to Prime Minister Mark Carney before he called the election. According to the Premier, the list needs to be addressed within 6 months of a new Prime Minister's term to avoid an unprecedented unity crisis. Ms. Smith was already in the spotlight last month when she told Breitbart News that she approached the Trump administration asking them to delay placing tariffs on Canada as the tariff talk was increasing Liberal support, hurting Mr. Poilievre's chances of becoming the next Prime Minister of Canada. Western Canada, in particular Alberta, has had a tenuous relationship with the federal government, especially those led by a Liberal Prime Minister. In 1980, then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, the father of Justin Trudeau, established the National Energy Program. This highly controversial program was launched to establish Canada's energy independence after the 2 oil crises in the 1970s. This program was loathed by Albertans as they saw it as the federal government imposing its will on a provincial industry. Even though the program ended, it sowed the seeds for Western alienation and the formation of the Reform Party. So not only does Mr. Poilievre have to deal with people in his party criticizing how he's running his campaign, he now has 2 Western politicians sowing discontentment, dancing with Western separation during a federal election. And again, I ask, with friends like these, who needs enemies? That's it for this episode of the podcast. If you have any feedback or story ideas, you can reach us at followtheleadpodcast@gmail.com. The podcast is available anywhere you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.